Are you ready to create a life you crave? Let's spin that doom loop of negativity into an upward success cycle and start living lucky.
Good morning.
I'm Jana.
I'm Jason.
And we are living lucky.
You are too.
We're talking about filters today. We're really talking about fleas.
There she is.
We are changing our filters in everything. We're changing our filters in our ceilings. We're changing the filters in all of our
dishwasher, in the washing machine,
in
the dryer,
our vacuum cleaners,
in the coffee maker.
any kind of filter. We are though. We're just cleaning it out. We're doing a deep clean. And one reason, and we hate to admit this, in fact, when we found this out, I turned to Jason and I said, promise me you're never going to tell anybody.
One thing we love to do is air our dirty laundry.
And then this morning he was like, what do you want to talk about on the podcast? And I was like, I don't know. I don't think we have anything to talk about. And then after thinking about it, I was like, okay, we're going to tell you and you only.
Yeah, so do not share this with anybody.
Do not tell anybody else.
We're going to keep this private.
Dog has fleas.
You're so dirty.
I feel so badly because it's my fault. It is my fault. And here's the thing.
You didn't give her the flea medicine.
I didn't. And I purposely didn't give it to her. And here's why. Because the last time we gave her the flea tick medicine, she got very, very sick. And we were going on a trip and our poor dog sitter had to deal with the aftermath of her being sick.
She got the squirts.
So this time around, I just opted not to give it to her. Now here in Florida, you're supposed to give your dog the flea tick medicine every 3 months. And in Florida especially, it's not a good thing to not give your dog flea tick medicine, especially if you live on a lake.
Yeah, in the summertime, fleas are just rampant.
We have a lake in the backyard and a pond in the front yard. There's fleas. There's going to be fleas.
Yeah.
And we have dogs. I mean, there's a dog in every household.
It's funny that where we live on the lake, there are dogs on almost at least every other house.
Dog people live on lakes. That's just all there is to it. At any rate. Okay. So I went through this whole emotional process, first of all. So there's a lot to unpack here. Let me just start there. But I went through this whole emotional process of, oh my gosh, it's my fault. I feel dirty. I feel ashamed. I feel
guilty,
embarrassed, guilty. And then I see our poor dog itching and scratching. And I mean, it took me 2 days to even take her to the vet. I was just trying to give her this cream for allergies because I thought it was the shampoo that the groomer was using.
Well, typically, that's what it is. Because when we travel, we take her to the groomer so that the dog sitter has a nice fluffy little fur ball to cuddle up with when she's here. And sometimes the shampoo is sensitive depending on which shampoo they use. And she comes home and she's like, okay, well, I'm not used to having this. And she's a little itchy. And it goes away in a couple of days. Well, this lasted a week.
So now we are...
And then the vet says, nope, she's got fleas.
And so now, because I am a little anal, I think is the word, I am changing all of the filters in the house, which is a good reminder of sometimes we just need to filter what is coming into our environment.
Into our lives. Yeah. And sometimes you don't mean to let something into your life. Mm-hmm. And you just need to check your filters and check what you're letting in.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then we're always cultivating what we want in and just tweaking our filters a little bit. So it's perfectly fine and perfectly normal, and having the awareness. And we had the vet point out what we allowed in. which is another huge awareness because we didn't know.
You don't know what you don't know, right? Sometimes you need an outsider to actually point out your blind spots.
And if we didn't know what was hurting Tater, hurting our dog, then it could have run out through the family.
I literally thought it was just allergies. I thought she had some sort of reaction to the shampoo from the groomer. And I literally was just going to let her itch it out for a while.
And if we had let her itch it out, if we didn't get an outside coach, the vet, then the fleas would have gotten worse. They would have put eggs and larvae all over the house. And then the fleas would have gotten on us. They would have gotten in literally everything. They would have hatched.
Okay, but let me ask you this. Just the thought of fleas, don't you
Makes my skin crawl.
Don't you sometimes find yourself now scratching yourself going, I don't know, maybe they're on me.
It reminds me of like third grade when somebody would come to school with lice and my head is like
and we
crawling
all
right
would
now.
start No, at my school they would actually have someone from the health department would have us all stand in line
and go through your hair like monkeys.
And then they would pick through your hair and then they would say, okay, and I won't even say names. I'll just make one up. I'll say, Toby.
Oh, you got to pick a Toby, right?
Toby, you need to go over to the office.
Flo,
and we all knew what that meant. We all knew what that meant. If Toby needed to go to the office, that meant Toby had lice.
Everybody else can stay in class.
Yeah. Right? Like that was
Toby,
so rude.
Toby, you're in quarantine.
And then they would literally put their hands in alcohol for the next person. And I was thinking, well, I was standing right behind Toby this whole time.
We were hugging and kissing.
I sat by Toby on the bus and I was in with Toby in music class. Like,
I wore
if
Toby's
Toby has
toboggan.
it. And then in a small town, word gets out. So if Toby's family has...
They got to move.
It gets around because now all of a sudden they're at the pharmacist getting all of the shampoos and the
Clippers.
Yeah. All of the siblings of Toby come to school the next day with short hair.
Yeah. Why does Toby's sister Michelle not have any hair?
And their dog is all shaved.
Yeah.
And it feels dirty. There's a dirty connotation.
But the
when
thing
really
is,
there shouldn't be. That's just a story.
It's just a thing.
It's just a thing.
And we're allowing things through our filters all the time. We turn on the news and we allow violence and scare tactics and all these things into our brains, into our minds, into our hearts. And then we go out and act on it. And so there's all these things. Our minds and our bodies are our gardens.
I know, but there is a connotation when somebody has some sort of, well, let's just use lice for an example.
And it's the meanings that we put on it.
Yes. Why do we do that?
Because a lot of times it hasn't happened to us. And it's just one of those things where we think,
we've been taught that. We've been conditioned that, though. Because lice likes dirty heads.
They just
dirty
like
hair.
They like
dirty
skin.
people.
It's just something that happens. It can happen to anybody.
It can happen to anybody. It doesn't necessarily mean you're dirty.
No.
Right? Or does it?
No, it doesn't.
I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I'm just trying to rationalize the fact that my dog has fleas, and I feel extremely guilty about it.
I mean, it's one of those things where you hope it doesn't happen to you because it is an inconvenience and it's itchy. It's one of those things that you don't like. I'm itching my neck right now because I feel like my skin is crawling.
I know.
Stop.
Stop.
But we start thinking about those things. It's like when you think about a lemon, your mouth starts watering. But it's the meaning that you put on things, and you just don't want to have to go through it.
I know.
And when we watch the news, we don't want to have to go through what other people are going through. So we put all this meaning on what they're going through and we try to avoid it.
So let's ask ourselves better questions. Let's start changing the script within. How is this serving us? Tater having fleas is helping us become aware. It is helping us clean our environment. I mean, just cleaning our dishwasher this morning, that was an eye-opener, wasn't it?
Yeah, I haven't cleaned the dishwasher filter in months. And I will tell you, when we got the dishwasher, I didn't really know there was a dishwasher filter. Like, that's just me being real. That's being not being manly, I guess, because I think a lot of men know there's a dishwasher filter.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And I know that I have, actually in January, I was going to have the house deep cleaned. And then when I had it quoted to have it deep cleaned, I was like, oh, we can just get by with surface cleaning. But maybe I will go ahead and have it deep cleaned.
I think, and I want to get back to the topic of the bad things that happen, like the fleas or the news. I think one of the questions that it subconsciously plants in our heads is, what would I be like if something like that was happening to me?
Well, there's an unconscious biance going on. That's what we're really talking about.
So I think in our minds, we see the news and we see something bad happening to someone else. And our question is, what if that happened to me? So we start seeing in our heads and in our subconscious that what I don't want instead of what we want. So when we don't put our filters up, when we allow that in, our subconscious starts thinking, what if that happens to me? And we don't want that, because we don't even want the idea of what if that happens to me. What we want to do is focus on what we do want. Because when we focus on what we do want, we start getting what we want.
Right. Once we start putting the negative or the don't want, then we start reverse manifesting.
Yeah. And it's a big difference. Like we realized when we stopped watching the news, our lives got better because we were able to focus entirely on what we want.
We are a little ignorant sometimes when we go to parties and people are like, so what do you think about the war in Ukraine? We're like,
what do you think about all the anger in the world? What do you think about all the sadness? We're like, well, we're kind of living our best lives right now. and we're helping people.
Jason's like, is this a joke? Is there a punchline coming?
But this is the thing. Like we are helping people in the world. I mean, we've delivered over 550 wheelchairs to people who are stuck in life without a wheelchair. We're helping people in the world, and we're living our best lives. So you can make a difference in the world.
So there is a correlation, is what you're saying.
Yeah. It's like, where do you want to put your focus? Like, the people that are angry, the people that are sad and upset aren't really, I don't think they're doing anything about the world. They're just worrying.
And when you get stuck in the worry, that's where you end up staying and creating more
worry.
Yes.
They sit in front of their television.
Yes.
Just stewing.
So I guess let's just pull this all.
They're stuck in their filter.
Let's pull this all together. Let's put a button on this. Okay. Let's just put a button on this. And let's just end this by saying, when something like this happens, like when your dog gets fleas, the question to ask is, how lucky am I?
Yeah. And what's my next meaningful step?
What good can come of this? What is this teaching me? How is this serving me?
Yeah.
What can I learn from this?
And what do I want out of this?
And one thing I have learned is I'm going to stock up on that T-flick medicine. Flea tick medicine, not T-flick.
I'll flick a T.
Thanks for joining us. I hope you got a couple laughs this morning. Keep living lucky. Bye-bye. If the idea of living lucky appeals to you, visit us at startlivinglucky.com.